question is very vague in general, but when you're thinking about telling an oral history, if you were just talking to a class of 7-year-olds or 10-year-olds or something like that, what kind of things would be important to you to pass down?
Trying to put myself in that seat. It's kind of tough. You can explain everything from as far back as we can go to now, and with a whole lot of minute details, and it's kind of hard to generalize that for a bunch of 7-year-olds.
Sure.
To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I guess the main points, if I was going to tell anybody, if I was going to teach anybody, try to do the best I could, regardless of what age they are, is to start out explaining what kind of dialect we are. With Degi Sioux, and we were way back there in ancient times. We were part of the Sioux people. We were a branch of them, and then we were all up north, and we started making our way south, and east a little bit. We broke off from them, but our language, how we talk, is still that same dialect. It's still that Siouan dialect. But how we broke off, we made our way south and east a little ways, and then we come up to this big river and we split. And that's how people understand that like that. It's a downstream. That's what they it's what they refer to us as downstream people, because we all split at that river and we ended up just going downstream, just going with the flow, following it down. Towards the 1800s, we faced assimilation and eradication, I suppose, from the U.S. government, different governments. Good thing we were able to make friends with one of those other people, the French. They were actually pretty good to us in some ways, most ways. Then again, you have to really know your history to disseminate between the two. But I guess basically I would just tell them our dialect of speaking, our language, how it come from, how we broke off, how our group broke apart when we got to that big river, and then explain how we settled in Arkansas, down in Arkansas, the Delta, the Mississippi River, up to the Arkansas River, that whole stretch of the country. And then it was I'll put that politely, we lost it at the end of it all. We lost it in somewhere towards the mid 1800s, late 1800s. We were forced out. We moved over here.
If you were to not put it nicely,
what would you say? Something along the lines of most other tribal nations across the country. We got our land stole from us. Very politely not nice.
One of the things we touched on is the land at the Delta that you were at, that the tribe was located. What have you heard about what that land was like, the land that you laid after breaking off? What was that land like?
It was supposed to be some of the most fertile land on this part of the continent. Some of the best growing, some of the best crops, best hunting lands. We had a good big wide river to fish from, to travel up and down. It was good land.
You had mentioned some of the treaties, or you mentioned a treaty that you could trace your lineage back to. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to, again, explain it, passing down an old history of what kind of treaty, even like what were the treaties supposed to represent, what was happening there, why were there treaties to begin with?
The treaty was supposed to be a friendship between the U.S. government and the people of the Quapaw at the time. In 1818, it was just a deal to get some land. We were supposed to get protection, promised goods, promised merchandise of up to $4,000. That equated to about $4,000 a year, and then $1,000 annually after that. Which, of course, because of the lawsuits, we have some partly settled and still going through. We were never actually delivered on a promise but treaties were supposed to be a friendship between the government and the people of the Quapaw, which turned out to be the start of the worst times of our people's history. And it's one of 5 treaties starting in 1818. So it was thinking about it now, 7 generations down the road. It was, I mean, what are you supposed to do when you got a gun to the back of your head, figuratively or literally? I don't know. I wasn't there. You know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But it was either sign the treaty and be friends, or you're gonna find out. And some tribes found out, and like most history tells, some tribes aren't here anymore. So the people, the chiefs at the time, just did what they had to. Make it go, make them protect your folks, keep them alive, whatever that meant. So I guess all in all, they were supposed to be friendships, supposed to be good deals for us. But really, it was just for the land, just for the land and the resources.
So the microphone's actually picking up the cup just a little bit. Are you okay putting the cup down?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Why were there 5? Why were there 5 separate treaties rather than, generally speaking, you sign a treaty and it's done with? Why? And I know this is common knowledge to you, but just explain it to me. Why?
I don't know. They just wanted more and more. Just wanted more and more and more. And what do you want to do when you legally bind somebody to something you want more of? You just write another one up, get the people in charge of signing it at the time. That's all I can think of. They just wanted all of it. But they wanted it all and push them out. And they got it. Even though it's, somewhat getting made right generations down the road, but they got what they wanted. Almost. Sorry.
No,
almost.
Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, they almost got it.
Got it. In your opinion, or just your knowledge, what brought Quapaw people here to this land today?
From what I recollect in that last treaty is what pushed us all the way over here. From getting pushed around through Arkansas, through Caddo Country, through southern Oklahoma, going back over Skytook, and then from what I recollect, I don't know, I haven't read that treaty in a minute. It's been a little while. But that last one is what pushes us up to this big chunk of land in northeastern, now Oklahoma.
Hey, let's talk about something a little happier.
Yeah.
We're also wanting to hear just some of the culture, the traditions that have been passed down to you. And maybe just, let's start with some memories. When you think back to your childhood, maybe teenage years, when you really started to learn Quapaw culture, what are some things that just pop out in your head right away?
The earliest anything I can remember being 3, 4, 5 years old, something like that. Something in there. It's kind of hard to remember being such a little kid. I remember my grandpa, Charles Chibody, he was Comanche. He was one of the last Comanche code talkers of World War II. He used to come down to my grandma's camp all the time when I was a kid, him and my Aunt Lacey. They'd come down every year when I was a little kid, and they'd camp with us. They'd stay with us. They'd camp with us the whole time for the whole duration of the powwow. I can remember him wrapping a piece of black cloth around my waist and putting a little tiny bandolier across my shoulders and giving me a little feather. I can't even remember what kind of feather it was. A little gourd. And he took me out there to the arena and he walked me in and we started gourd dancing. I was just a little kid. I didn't know what I was doing or anything like that. But that's probably the earliest I can remember getting involved in anything. Just gourd dancing in the arena with my grandpa Charlie. He sure was a good grandpa. Sure was. And then he passed little ways down the road, but that's probably the earliest I can remember. Probably the more severe I could remember is the portion about funerals that we do out here. I could remember being 11, 12, and 13 coming out with my family. When people would pass away, they'd come out here and they'd set up right over here. They sit out here for 3 or 4, 5 days sometimes. They have a fire. All the women would be cooking. All the men would be sitting out there with a fire. You'd have somebody here taking care of things. I can remember showing up then, and it was kind of funny sometimes, but then it kind of wasn't sometimes either. But my family, they'd bring me out here and they'd say, "You need to go help your uncles. Go help your grandpas." I said, "All right, help them do what?" "You'll find out when we get out there." Okay. Like I had a choice or anything like that, just get in and go. But I remember coming out here and sitting up and stoking the fire and cutting wood and sitting out back with somebody's funeral fire. 11, 12, and 13. I remember doing that. And sometimes I'd look back in here and my family would be gone. And I'd go ask my grandpa Cat or somebody, "Hey, where'd they go?" They said, "They'll be back for you in the morning to stay here and help through the night." I said, "Wow, I just really got dumped off to go work all night." That's how it was a lot of times when I was younger, my earlier teenage years. That kind of just end up out here. But through all that, it's mostly just, in my early days, it was just powwow and a whole lot of funerals. A whole lot of real sad people's worst days. A whole lot of.
What does that describe the Quapaw culture at all? Even you not having to, maybe having to, but helping out, pitching in. Is that the communal nature of Quapaw?
For the way that we do funerals is probably I'd say one of the top 3 examples of oldest things that Quapaw still do, as close as we can get to what they used to do back then. And it's never going to be exactly the same to what they used to. We've got different documented stories go back towards the 1600s and 1700s of the funerals happening and a fire sitting by the body and women cooking and them sitting up for 3 or 4 days at a time, just like what we do now. So it may not be exactly how they used to back then because we have all these different things now, but it's one of the oldest things that we have, next to our language, next to pottery, next to, well, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, those might be the oldest 3 things that we have still today.
What are some other things that you learned at a young age the important things to carry on when you talk about carrying on the tradition? When it comes to funerals, when it comes to that event, what were the important things that were passed down to you?
You mean just like a general overview of it, or just?
Feel free to take it where you want to go, but yeah, I'd say just a general overview of some of the things that you were instructed to do, some of the things you observed people doing that were done so because they've been done for so many generations.
You got to understand how it used to be is not how it is now. The concept is still the same. The formation of it is still the same. But how it was done then, the procedure on doing things then is not the same procedure now. A lot of it now is, how would you say, relaxed. It's real relaxed now. But when I first started helping, and I first started getting older and serious and taking positions like, not taking positions, but getting asked to do things from older folks. My family, they told me, if you're gonna go for the duration, go to help out. If you're gonna go there, stay there till the end, from start to finish. And if it's your own family, don't leave unless you absolutely don't have to. If you're gonna go to be there for them, go be there for them, because that's the last thing you're gonna be able to do for that person. And at the end of the day, after working somebody's funeral and digging a grave for them, that truly is the last thing you're gonna be able to do for anybody. As far as on some of the procedures, there's a lot to it. Some of it we had to pick up ourselves and figure out how to maneuver some of the procedures ourselves. Some of those old folks didn't tell you why you were doing something. They just told you to do it. And like a good grandson or a good nephew, you just got up and went and did it. So a lot of them, they didn't tell you why you were doing something. You had to figure it out for yourself and learn how to make it make sense for yourself. So just me and my little young self, I spent a lot of time out here with a lot of funerals and different people, and I made sense of it. I kind of formed my own procedures on how to do things, still within the same concept of how it was given to me. And going back, of course, it's not the same as it used to be 100 years ago, but the overall concept of it, the direction we go during each one of them is still the same. But a lot of that I had to, other than the main chunks, I took a lot of the smaller pieces and I aligned it out for myself. And that's how I show other people when they come around.
You may be one of the best people, most qualified people to answer a question like this. And I'm not even sure, it's an abstract question, but when you see the traditionally the funeral process that you've been taught from a very young age, and you compare it to the culture out there that has an hour-long service and it's just quick and it's done. I guess the question is, what is the heart? What are you trying to do in a funeral process that takes so long? What is it that you want to do for the person that's passed, or for the culture, for the family members that are left behind? Like, it's an abstract question, but like, what is the heart behind what you're trying to do when you do spend 4 days doing something, or 5 days doing something like that?
The whole point of a funeral is to perform a certain set of Indian rites for the person who passed away, along with looking after their family on the spiritual and physical side as well. That's the point of it. Whenever somebody comes in to run a funeral, the point is to look after that body of whoever that is and perform a certain set of Indian rites and look after the family. But in doing so, you tie yourself to them. You tie yourself in mourning with them. A lot of folks don't think about it like that. But that's how I was taught. That's what I was told, is whenever you're taking care of somebody, you're a part of their family. Because it used to be somebody in that family would always do it. Back when every family could run their own funerals. That's how it used to be. But now it's so far outside of that. There's a couple handfuls of people who run funerals, and it's kind of not that it's expected, because nobody would ever say no to something like that. But everybody knows where to go for something like that out of a couple handfuls of people, instead of taking time to really go in and learn it and teach your own family, so that way your own family could do those things. Everybody just knows where to go to get those things done. But whoever's doing that, the whole point of it, the whole heart of it, is to follow your procedures the best you can, and look after that body, perform those rites, and look after the family. You tie yourself in and follow up with them. But as far as length and the time, we used to have a lot of people who lived in Skiatook, a lot of our tribe, whenever we come over here. And that's how long it used to take to get over there. It used to take a few days on a horse and a carriage to get over there, and a couple days to get back. So if you had a family member who passed away here and the rest of your family lived over there, you send a party out to go get the rest of your family and come back. That was about 4 days. We don't have to do funerals. It's not a set 4 days every single time. We could do a funeral in 2 days. Through one midnight, you could hit all your milestones that you need to hit, all the different times you need to perform different things. It doesn't have to be. It's not any one set time. All the dinners don't have to follow annually. You can do them all in 3 days after the day of burial. Just little things. But it's hard to do. It's real hard to do like that. It makes it real tough. 4 days is a lot of time. It gives you plenty of time to plan and get things done accordingly how you want, if you're not used to it. But if you're used to it, you can do it in a very, very timely fashion, very efficiently. But then again, I guess not all people are used to death like that either. So I guess I'm just managing my own expectations and thinking about most people, because most people don't do that all the time. Only a small group do. I don't know if that answers that.
That's a phenomenal answer. Yes, that answers the question for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, and feel free to pass on this question if you'd like to, but when you've heard us talk a few times about the Catholic schools and their impact on the culture.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke so well about the trees and the other things that have happened. Would you want to talk at all about what, in your opinion, what you've been told or to your knowledge, how would you say the schools have, the boarding schools impacted Quapaw culture?
Well, it didn't completely eradicate it, but it did a real good job of assimilating almost all of it out of our people through the schools, through relocation, through the wars, through everything, I guess, back in the early 1900s to mid-1900s. Even all the way up into the 70s and 80s, you could say, for some reason. With the Catholic school, they did a real good job of taking language away, taking our cultural way of living away, hunting, fishing, crafting, making things for ourselves, building our own lodges. Then again, at the same time, the Catholic schools and different boarding schools and agencies started coming in. We were also getting a lot of money too, so there was a lot of tribe members who were just eating up whatever they get their hands on because they had a lot of money.
When it comes to, let's just start with language. What kind of impact did the suppression of language have, in your opinion, on Quapaw culture? Yeah, let's start there on Quapaw culture.
Well, the schools, when they, this is what I hear, what I've heard. I couldn't tell you exactly what's what because I wasn't there, of course, but overall idea I have on it is that when the schools came in and they took all of our kids and they put them in, they would make them not speak their own language. And of course they would do that because if you can get an entire race of people to not speak their own language, then they just become another English-speaking people unless they have their actual traditions and customs that they practice, which thankfully, at least most or some or however many of the Quapaw people back then actually kept continuing practicing their own ways, like funerals and annual dances, peyote meetings, different things. Thank God they did do that because they were still able to preserve some things, but the thing they lost mostly was a lot of that language in the kids, and that's exactly how you continue it on for a whole race of people is you teach your kids. So the schools did a good job of assimilating that out. After that, very few families held on to it. And then even fewer generations after that, and then it just dwindles. And here we are now at this point where we just have a few. We got a hole the size of a grain of sand left of language, a couple good people. So we're on our way back, but the government, they sure got us.
How does it make you feel when you do hear that there are people that are taking the initiative and they're wanting to start integrating language back into the culture and teaching? I mean, talk about something happy. How does that make you feel?
Can't put words on it. Can't put words on it. Good. Makes me feel good. Better than good. Better than I can say good. Makes me feel real good because at least I know that I might not be able to learn it as a kid and live my life with it, but maybe my kids could, or maybe their kids could. And all the ones maybe further on down the road I'm not going to see, they'll have it. Even though I couldn't have that, I can help preserve that and try to bring it back the best that I can. Of course, it's not going to be exactly like it was hundreds of years ago, but we'll still have it.
We talked a little bit about the previous generations, even just 2 generations back, and how, well, you mentioned kind of maybe with funerals, maybe this ties into that, but like there was a lot of suppression of culture, not because previous generations wanted to suppress it, but because they thought their kids would be more safe and more prosperous, that they integrated it into culture. Did you experience that at all growing up? Do you feel like you see some whispers of that growing up?
Yeah, yeah, I had a few times to Indian school, Sequoia for a little bit, down to Oaks for a little bit in Tahlequah. Went to a Chickasaw Indian school, or not school, but little village where a bunch of Indian kids lived at down by Durant. But that was a pretty good place. The other places, they actually weren't so bad. The most flack I got for being any kind of native was being a brown kid with long hair in a public school like here in Quapaw, which is kind of ironic because the town is named Quapaw, with the Quapaw tribe down the road with half full of Quapaw kids, and the one little brown boy with the long ponytail down to his butt catches flack because he's like that, and he wears a braid every day to school, and he comes in singing songs, and yeah, just catching flack from other little town kids, I guess. But then again, it's kind of, I don't know, kind of expected because it was different than some of the other Indian kids that were in my own class. Sure, they were there and they were brown too, but I don't know, maybe their families just didn't bring them around or what it was, but can go with a long ponytail singing some songs, and even your own cousins kind of look at you weird, like you're being weird in class. But then you go home and you go to your grounds, and that's just normal. You live it because you do it because it's normal. That's how you live your life every day. That's how home was. You go to public school like that, and it's kind of different for most folks. So you just kind of be quiet and step back.
Last question, simply be a general theme that we're seeing throughout all of this is, you really did a good job talking about it, but there was the times of the treaties, and there's tremendous wrongs done to Quapaw, and there's times of oppression and suppression that we went through the schools. And then there's a time of what seems like stability, and now we're starting to see a resurgence, and there's optimism, whether it be because of language or because of infrastructure or because young people are seeing opportunity to do big things. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You can tell me I'm completely off base, but do you feel that vibe at all? Are you seeing an upward trend? Are you optimistic right now about the future?
I am. I really am. I'm more optimistic for my own generation and the generation both above me and below me. I'm very optimistic because there was a generational gap in there that a lot of the generation above me, I don't know why. I don't know how it was. Maybe it was because the generation above them were more or less so taught not to be Indian, told not to be Indian, that maybe some of their kids didn't, and I don't know why it was, but there was a big gap and a lack of experience, of actual hands-on practicing experience, and because you can read a lot of stuff in books, you can listen to interviews, you can gather information. You can do that all day long. You can be a black and white, knowledgeable person, but until you go out and live it for yourself, until you go out and experience it yourself, they're not the same. I mean, yeah, sure, they look the same, but they're not. They're just not the same. A lot of that generation above me, there's a big gap in there from doing it and hearing it. Then most of my generation would, not most, some just really do it, but they've heard it at the same time. But that generation above me, they're really taking a lot of initiative too to come back into the fold and pick things up. So I'm real optimistic about that. I'm real glad that my mom and her whole age group, that they're all coming in and sticking with it. I'm sure glad for that. I want that. As far as all my other folks in my own age group, I'm sure optimistic because there's a lot of them trying to pick up on it, trying to do it hands-on, live it, and understand it. It's like that though. You can read and gather information, but you're never really going to understand until you do it. And a lot of folks in my generation, they're trying to do it. They're trying to live it and understand it. It makes me feel real good. It makes me feel real optimistic because I'm in that bunch. We're in the same age group. I'm trying to show my kids how to do all this. Well, hopefully they can pick it up and learn it and live it and understand it. They can show their kids. Maybe our kids get together some way down the road, be able to take care of each other, look after the rest of the tribe. And it just goes down like that. So yeah, I am. I'm really hopeful. As long as we can stay united, stay together, not fighting, not arguing, or Indians always fight and argue, especially Quapaw. But at least get over it long enough to take care of things.